Here we are.
I'm here with Daniel and Patrick.
Yes.
Patrick's from Eslan.
Indeed.
Here it is, ESLAN. English Speak Like a Native.
Yes, that's my YouTube channel, and there are a lot of videos on there, and most of the videos are focusing on English speaking and English pronunciation, and trying to provide solutions to pronunciation problems, because as you know, a lot of people have issues, speaking clearly and intelligibly. And I guess the videos that I make are videos targeting that side of English learning. I don't do much grammar. I don't do much, reading or writing. I don't do any of that. I simply focus on the sounds of English, because I feel that's really heavily ignored by the industry. I mean, nobody knows about it. You go to any ESL school you want. Teachers are not well trained. They don't know how to handle problems. If I have a problem, if I'm a student, which I was, by the way, if I have a student and I go to a teacher and say, hey, I got a problem, I can't say that sound, it doesn't come out right. What's wrong with it? How do I deal with it? And I bet you that the teacher is going to freeze. And the teacher will not have a clue how to fix my problem. And that's a bit frustrating, I think. I mean, how would you feel about it if you were a student?
Well, it's for someone that's a native speaker, it's natural for the words to come out and the accents to come out. For someone like you, tell us your story, because you touched on it briefly, but you were born in Lebanon.
Right. I was born in Lebanon. Yes, I came to Australia. I was 21 years old, and when I came to Australia, I couldn't speak. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't say much. I mean, I could certainly say a few words here and there, but I couldn't really have a conversation with anybody, and I couldn't understand people. Especially Australian accent is pretty, funny. I mean, no offense.
No,
you're both Aussies, and I'm Australian too. Anyway, by the way, I mean, I was
questions every sentence.
But I mean, it compared to the American accent, which is very prevalent and widespread, and I think people are more familiar with the American accent. The Australian accent might come across as a bit funny to a lot of people, and so I found it funny myself. Absolutely. It was very hard to follow.
It's hilarious.
No, I mean, as you get used to it, I guess it's just an accent. Right? Yeah.
Well, I notice as I teach my student, I always, I've noticed I speak with it slightly, and I over-pronunciate the R's, because otherwise...
You articulate more.
Yeah, absolutely,
right.
I wouldn't
you have
speak,
to do that, yeah.
I wouldn't speak in class, for example, how I'm speaking now. I would articulate the R's a lot more.
Right.
And speak with that American accent, because otherwise they don't understand. They have trouble understanding.
I think they find a lot of problems understanding, Aussies with those nasal, how you going, mate?
Yeah.
Can you speak like that, Sean?
Yes.
No,
Can you put on... I think you sound pretty good when you do it.
So you learned English in Australia or in America?
No, I've never been to America. I mean, I visited there 2 weeks. I think it was 7-8 years ago. I went to New York for about 2 weeks. But that was about it.
Okay.
And so when I came to Australia, I'd never been to America, and I'd lived all my life in Lebanon. I was born there, and I grew up there, and I only studied English, or I started studying English 6 months before I decided to come to Australia. And I think what happened was I did not have a lot of options. Let me just elaborate a bit more on that. See, in Lebanon, you need to join the army. You have to draft.
Right. Yes.
And we had draft. I mean, they don't have it now, but they had it in the past. And to be honest, I mean, I know I get criticized for saying that a lot, but I don't like my country. Well, actually, I hate it. I hate the culture. I don't like the culture. I don't like what people stand for. And so for me, it was, I cannot stay here. There's no way I was going to waste 1 year of my life serving a country that I don't believe in and I don't like. So I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to do it. So I decided, all right, so what am I going to do? I'm not going to stay there. And I thought, what are my options? Do I go to America? It was very hard. The dollar was very high. I mean, I think it was twice as the Australian dollar back then. So 50 cents American was what equivalent to one Australian dollar.
Yeah.
So it was like, they had a very tough currency. And so it was very hard for me. I couldn't do it. So I decided that I was going to come to Australia, and I had that little problem called English. All right? Couldn't speak, couldn't write, couldn't read, couldn't do anything.
At all, like
a
little bit.
Thank you.
Right.
Love you. Or, whatever. Things like that.
Right.
And I realized that, and I had no money. I mean, people were going to schools, we had ESL schools over there. So I could have gone to an ESL school. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the money. And so the only thing that I could do was I asked myself, all right, I'm going to buy a book. I think I'm going to buy a book, and I can afford to buy like a little novel. It was not little, actually it was pretty thick. It was The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Have you read that? Anybody?
I've heard
you
of
read
it.
that?
No.
That's one hell of a novel, all right? But I'm not going to get into that because it's a whole different thing right now.
Okay.
But I started, it was just that thick, and I started reading it, and I had to read it 6 times to understand what was going on in that novel. And every time I read that novel, I was using the dictionary. I was looking up every single word in the dictionary. I locked myself up in a room for 6 months, hardly get out of the room. My mom would scream, come over here, get out of that room, you gotta have lunch, you gotta have dinner. And I just didn't care about food because I was just simply focused, laser focused
On learning English.
on what I was doing. And so and within 6 months, I passed the TOEFL test, not IELTS, TOEFL test. I got the score that I needed to get admitted into the university.
You focused in on one book.
Right.
And you focused in on that one book and you read it multiple times.
Right.
I always say to my students the best way to learn English is to come to class and read every day, even if it's for 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
Or a newspaper. And I've got a student at the moment, I was just telling Sean, who has read the Harry Potter books in Portuguese in Brazil, and is now reading them in English. And his level has just gone through the roof in the last month.
If only more students realise this.
Absolutely.
You tell them read.
Yeah.
It can help you so much.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then you come to class, you've got more questions, you can have more of an interest.
Yeah.
You don't even have to, it doesn't have to work that hard, you just have to read.
Absolutely.
I mean, speaking and listening, they belong in the same part of the brain.
Yes.
And reading and writing, they belong in the same part of the brain. And if like we say, if learners understood that, I think that would make a whole lot of difference. But they don't. And they're lazy. Most of the times, they're lazy, and you don't have that aggressiveness, right? That aggressive attitude, that can-do attitude, that I want to do this, I got to do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't live with myself, not having the ability to express myself well, not having the ability to be who I am.
Yes.
I couldn't live with that. I had to be me, right?
That was really, really fascinating. Thanks so much, Patrick, for being on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
We're going to be up, I suppose, at eslan.com and on YouTube. Thanks, Dan. And,
You're welcome.
Hopefully we can continue this next week.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'd love
guys.
that.
Yeah, definitely.
Or
I would love
another
to.
time.
I would love to. Thank you
love
very
it.
much.
I've got a lot of questions.
Very nice chat. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.